Good afternoon and welcome to the virtual Graduate School Town Hall sponsored by Penn State Today. Today we will be discussing the university's response to the novel coronavirus and focusing on what this means for graduate students. We held similar town halls last month for students, faculty, and staff, and as with those town halls, we're implementing social distancing and conducting them online only, streamed here at liveevents.psu.edu. We have been soliciting questions for over a week, and we'll do our best to get to as many of them as possible today or after this session. Today with us, we have Executive Vice President and Provost Nick Jones, Vice Provost for Graduate Education and Dean of the Graduate School, Jean Vassalatos-Yonkin, Associate Dean for Graduate Student Affairs, Sarah Adis, Senior Associate Dean, Michael Verderame, Associate Dean for Graduate Education Equity and Chief Diversity Officer for Graduate Education, Stephanie Danette Preston, and Vice Provost for Global Programs, Roger Brinley. First, Provost Jones, I understand you'd like to say a few remarks. Provost Jones, thank you.
This first mistake at the town hall. It's great to be here and have this opportunity to engage with you all directly. At the town hall that been referenced last month, we did take some questions that were particularly relevant to graduate students, but we realized after that event that there were many more questions out there among this population to which we had not responded. So the idea of having a special town hall focused on graduate student needs and interest and questions emerged, and here we are. So I appreciate everybody's participation. We look forward to responding to your questions, and I hope that our responses will be of value to you.
Thank you, Provost Jones. Now, Dean Vassalatos-Yonkin, would you say a few words?
Yes, thank you, Ben. I want to echo Provost Jones' sentiment that first and foremost, the health and safety of our entire community is really our absolute top priority. And I want to point out that we all have a responsibility to do our best to ensure this for each other. We also recognize that, as for all students, the continuity of course delivery is critical for graduate education as well. And our intention in the graduate school with all of our programs and our graduate faculty is to deliver a quality experience in this piece through remote teaching and instruction and learning. And that takes a lot of different forms in graduate education, and we're committed to that quality delivery in each of those. I also want to say emphatically that the graduate school is committed to the success of every one of our students. And we really appreciate the understanding and the flexibility. And frankly, we're inspired by the resiliency of our students that they've demonstrated. We also recognize, and we've been responsive to this, and we will continue to do so, that there has to be flexibility at this time. And that includes flexibility with respect to the academic policies of graduate council that cover all graduate programs, the flexibility for graduate school processes and rules. And that's to assure that all the activities that have had to pivot to be remote, research, scholarship, delivering essential activities, but also the flexibility to assure that each individual can take care of themselves, their families, and the ones that they care for. And we will continue to be responsive in that respect. And finally, I want everyone listening to know that everyone on this panel, I will say personally, I have been inspired by the university leadership, President Barron and Provost Jones' commitment to student success, all of the graduate school administrators, those on the panel and others, our whole staff that's behind the scenes, and they are always student-centered. And I would point out that Dr. Brindley, who literally walked in the door, immediately raised his hand and said he wants to be part of this because our commitment for student success and that we are very invested in you. Thank you.
And we have brought together several people from different aspects of the graduate school today to answer as many questions from various angles that you have submitted. As I said, we've gotten several of them, many of them over the last few days, and we will ask as many of them as possible in the time we have today. First, Provost Jones, this question is for you. graduate students with assistantships are asking if they'll still be paid after April 30th. This was, of course, a topic that came up at the previous town hall.
Yes, Ben. All graduate students who are paid on traineeships, assistantships, or fellowships will have their payment continue, their stipend continue, consistent with their the appointment letters that they received for the spring. I know there have been some questions about the April 30th date that was provided by President Barron. That applies to employees of the universities, but students will be covered by the time period indicated in their spring letters.
Thank you. And as a follow-up, will graduate students who are working part-time on campus, maybe in residential dining, which group do they fall in on as far as the April 30th deadline?
That is a more complex issue. The university made a commitment to support all employees, including full-time and part-time employees, through till April 30th. Students who have wage payroll type jobs in the areas that you mentioned fall under that general category. The university is working very hard as we speak to come up with a strategy beyond April 30th to maintain operations where necessary and continue to support people to the extent possible. But it is too early to be able to make any commitments for those types of positions at this time beyond the April 30th date.
Thank you. And to continue with the financial topics, Dean Vassalatos-Yankin, will graduate student stipends be cut or reduced next year for current students as a result of this?
So Ben, at this time, there are no plans by the university to reduce stipend level grades for the upcoming academic year for fall 2020 or spring 2021.
Thank you very much. Sarah Adis, this question is for you, and it's sort of a broad term, but have several people wondering, how does the university decide what research is quote unquote essential?
Great, thanks for this question. You know, we realize how difficult it is to have to step away from an ongoing research project. There's so many exciting and important things that are going on. However, given the situation with the COVID-19 pandemic, the health and safety of our graduate students, the Penn State community, and the state college community are paramount. Given this, the decision was made to reduce all non-essential research-related activities on campus. So what is essential research? Basically, it's defined as activities that would generate significant sample or data loss, would pose a safety hazard, or would endanger patients if they're discontinued. It also includes ongoing research activities that are related to COVID-19. And we'd like to applaud all of the researchers who are using their expertise to combat various aspects of the pandemic. For a full list of activities, you can visit the website for the Office of the Senior Vice President for Research. Also, individual colleges might have provided more specific guidance to your research advisors as to what's considered essential research in your discipline.
And just as a brief follow-up, if someone is unsure where they fall under or where their research falls under, who should they reach out to?
For graduate students, you should talk to your research advisor, your research supervisor, to see if your research is considered essential or not.
Thank you for that. Stephanie, we have a question for you. And just what can Penn State do to help graduate students struggling with their finances during this pandemic, as so many people are? Stephanie, could we get you to unmute your mic, please? And I'll repeat the question. What can Penn State do to help graduate students struggling with finances?
No problem. Thank you for your question. We recognize that these are trying times for both our residential graduate students as well as our world campus graduate students, understanding that there may be furloughs, layoffs, or even expenses that have come with the stay-at-home order. The university has created a student emergency fund. It's been prioritized to reach out to our alumni and friends to collect dollars for students who may be in need, specifically for those in urgent need. In addition to that, students may also access their colleges as well as their departments, and they may be able to direct them to other that may be available. Furthermore, we also have our multicultural students. We have the College Council of Multicultural Leaders, or Council of Multicultural Leaders, who may also have funds available, or I may be able to direct them towards resources that may be available to them.
Thank you. And just to follow up, are there any options if they lack the actual physical things they need? I'm thinking computers, internet. Is there any way that the university can provide or loan equipment for that?
Sure, the university has also prioritized that as well. Their laptops as well as Wi-Fi hotspots that may be available to them. They can access the information for these resources at remote-learning.psu.edu. There's a mobile request form students can submit to request assistance with this.
Thank you very much. Michael Verderame, we have a question for you, and many students were very interested in how the university would conduct grading during this, and it was announced that schools would be going to a pass-fail option, but that created some other questions. And how will that pass grade impact any residency requirements?
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate the question. As you mentioned, we did release guidance on optional alternative grading for the spring semester last week. And there are an extensive set of FAQs that go with that. But graduate education is complicated, and we obviously didn't cover everything, so I'm happy to answer this question. This refers to the residency requirement for our research and professional doctoral students. And the short answer is that spring 2020 will count towards the residency requirement for students that are enrolled full-time. But I'd like to add two important details. The first is that this semester will count regardless of whether students choose to keep the quality grades they're assigned by their instructors, or if they choose the alternative grading system. And secondly, I do want to also point out that this semester will count for full-time enrolled students, despite the fact that many of them are off campus because of the physical distancing requirements that the governor has asked us to enforce.
Thank you for that. And I mentioned briefly, we have a website in addition to the ones they've mentioned, psu.edu/virusinfo. And if people mention resources during the course of the town hall, we'll make sure that we post those resources into that one central location. That's psu.edu/virusinfo. This is the latest up-to-date information on everything that the university is doing with regard to coronavirus, both university response and going across all the science and research that we're doing in this area as well. So as again, that website is psu.edu/virusinfo. And Roger Brindley, we have a question for you. And we've heard reports from all across the country that international students are being targeted, harassed, and blamed for this pandemic. What is your message to our international community today?
I really appreciate that question because it allows us to get straight to the importance of our global work here at Penn State. Just this week, the president of Penn State, Dr. Eric Barron, wrote an article called "We Are One Community," and you can find it on the COVID-19 update website of the university. I encourage you to read it. I'd like to read an excerpt of it for you because we can be assured that Penn State is deeply committed to our international community. Dr. Barron wrote, "As the new coronavirus spreads around the world, so unfortunately do cases of xenophobia or discrimination against individuals of East Asian descent. As members of a community of learners and teachers and scholars, we have a responsibility to avoid not only falling prey to these biases, but to actively address these ugly prejudices that have no basis in fact." I'd like to remind all of you that International Student Scholar Advising is available at 814-865-6384. Excuse me, 6348. Let me repeat that, 814-865-6348. And we are here to help you with all your issues related to your engagement in the community and your intercultural learning. We value our international population at Penn State. Our global work in teaching, academics, and research and engagement require that our international students are part of the heartbeat of this university. We benefit from your presence, and we want you to feel that you are welcome and you're respected at all times.
Thank you for that, and welcome to the university.
Thank you.
Dean Youngkin, the next question is for you. What is the university doing to support graduate students in their individual academic goals?
This is a really important question. And I want to start by saying that one of the hallmarks of the model for graduate education at Penn State is our ability to accommodate individual students' academic interests, and for students who are in research degree programs, their individual research interests. They come here because of the research expertise of our faculty and aligning them with being able to work in those domains. So there are a whole variety of curricular models to accommodate individual students' interests. For example, we have things called areas of emphasis or concentration. We have options, dual title degrees, elective courses, and for students who are in those research degree programs, they can select electives that are specific to the focus of their research problem. I also want to emphasize that all of these curricular flexibilities have continued throughout the current situation, and faculty and our graduate programs are very much focused on making sure that students who are pursuing research have avenues to continue to do that, whether it means helping them identify information resources so they continue with some of their work. It may be helping to redirect the sequencing of what they do in their research, such as focusing on literature reviews or proposal writing at this time. But the goal is to make sure that they can continue to pursue those individual interests and be successful.
Thank you very much. Sarah Adis, we have another question for you. And if a graduate student doesn't feel safe, specifically regarding the coronavirus, if they don't feel safe completing their assistantship activities, what resources are available to them to seek help while also maintaining anonymity?
Yes, so the health and safety, as we've said, of graduate students is our utmost concern. One resource, Environmental Health and Safety, has a clear set of procedures for those who are conducting essential research on campus to follow that include guidelines for social distancing and for cleaning lab spaces with everything from equipment to computers. Still, everyone who is doing research in these labs should follow all of these recommendations. If you don't feel safe doing your research, what you should start with is by talking to your research supervisor or your graduate program leadership. I'd like to note that the university has clearly stated that a graduate student cannot be required to come to campus to do research. If you feel that you can't have this type of discussion with your research advisor or with your graduate program leadership, what you can do is you can contact me. I serve as the ombudsperson for all graduate students at Penn State. I can help you in navigating these types of situations with assurance of maintaining confidentiality if you request it and as allowable by the Penn State policies and laws.
Thank you, and we'll make sure we have contact information for your office posted as well. Stephanie, we have another question for you, and this topic is on the mind of many of our students that are graduating, both undergraduate and graduate students, and they're thinking about their career and how are they going to get a job in this extra tough time. And so how is the university planning to help them do that? Are they going to host career days as they normally do in person? What are the options there?
Thank you for the question. While, of course, it's a very difficult time for students, especially those students who are graduating and seeking employment. Right now, the Office of Graduate Educational Equity Programs is going to be sending out a survey. This is one option that we have. This survey is going out across our listserv. If students don't have access to our listserv but would like to fill out the survey, it's ogee@psu.edu is our email address. In this survey, we're planning on collecting information with regards to sort of remote social activities as well as professional development for our students that we can offer. In addition to this information, I know Dr. Sarah Aves has been in contact with the career services, with our career services here on campus, and they've offered one-on-one counseling with students with regards to their careers and whatnot. Dr. Aves is also working with career services to host a number of workshops as well as professional development that will be offered at a later date.
That's very reassuring to students. I'm sure Penn State is known for the efforts they put into helping their students find careers after they graduate. So thank you so much for providing that information on how that's ongoing. Michael, we have another question for you. And given that the university has granted tenure timeline extensions to faculty, many graduate students are wondering if they're going to get an extension in their degree process as well. Can you address that for us?
Sure, Ben. As Dean Vassiladis-Yankin said at the beginning, the commitment of everyone in the graduate school is to ensure the success of our students. And so consistent with that goal, last week when we released the guidance on optional alternative grading, we also released guidance extending all of the major graduate council time limits, virtually all of them by a full year. I do want to be clear, this is to provide extra time as students need it. It's not a requirement that they must take longer. We certainly hope students can finish in as efficient manner as possible. And you can see all the various policies that were impacted by this guidance, again, on the graduate school's COVID-19 website, which you can get from our homepage as well.
That's good. All of our overachieving students can continue forward and graduate on time. We wouldn't want to stop that. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Roger, we have another question for you. And can international master's students who are anticipating graduating this May be granted conditional PhD admissions in the same program? Many of them want to stay here legally until their home country opens up and more international travel opportunities arise.
What a wonderful question. Talk about overachieving students. That's a terrific question. You know, in the eyes of an I-20, and the international students listening will know what I mean by that, there is no such thing as a conditional I-20. So you have to be admitted to receive an I-20. So the first thing we strongly encourage all of our graduate students who are thinking about going on to a PhD to do is to go to your departments, go to your program advisors, and have that conversation now. Many of you have been wonderfully successful in your graduate work. Many of you will be admissible to your PhD opportunities, and we certainly encourage you to have those conversations. If you apply and your program admits you, then our colleagues in international student advising can quickly process an I-20 for you. So that's a really wonderful question, and I want to give a very positive answer. I will just give this one caveat, Ben, and that is that every single international student has a slightly different arrangement from every other. And so it's very, very important that you go to iStart and that you fill out an e-form called Submit a Question. And that question can go straight to an advisor in our international student services, and they can come back to you with an answer and help you with your very individual circumstances. Of course, you can also call that number that I gave a little earlier. That's the 814-865-6348 number, and they'll be delighted to help you there as well. So the message is, please go and explore the opportunities with your doctoral faculty and advisors, and know that the International Student Services are available to assist you with the I-20 as soon as you're admitted.
Thank you very much. And then you can tell all your friends and family that you also received your doctorate from Penn State and make them all very jealous.
Exactly.
Nick Jones, we have another question for you. What is the plan for the graduate school commencement ceremonies? I know that commencement in general is a very important topic right now to many people.
It is, Ben. Thanks for that question. And I know that there are certain to be some of you listening right now who were planning on participating in our graduate school commencement ceremony this May and must be very disappointed given the circumstances. And I can share with you personally, I may be the provost of the university, but I am also the father of a graduating student, and we too share your disappointment that we can't participate in a physical ceremony. It was announced a little earlier this week, hopefully most of you saw it, that the university plans on Saturday, May 9th, a virtual commencement ceremony for the entire university, with the exception of the College of Medicine, Dickinson Law, and Penn State Law. Those three academic units will have their own ceremonies because they're on a slightly different academic calendar from the rest of the university. That ceremony, that virtual ceremony, will be presided over by President Barron. I will also participate in it. And in that ceremony, the president will confer degrees on all assembled, quote unquote, assembled students, and including graduate students and undergraduate students from all of our campus locations. The intention is that this will be followed by a special ceremony that is being developed by the graduate school, which desires to do that special recognition of graduate students. And maybe at this point, I'll hand over to Dean Youngkin to say a few words about what is envisioned for that graduate school ceremony.
So thank you, Provost Jones. Let me reiterate that we're all disappointed that we can't have our normal graduate school commencement ceremony, but we are certain that we'll be able to provide, after the university level ceremony, we are working together with all of our graduate programs and colleges to plan some virtual things that will be meaningful to each of our graduating students, and recognize we have a very large graduate school with a very diverse number of programs and fields, and we want to be sure that we include components in the way that we celebrate the achievement of having your degrees conferred that reflect that diversity. So stay tuned, and we will have information coming out on how the graduate school plans to recognize and celebrate those students who are graduating, so that you don't have the disappointment of not knowing how truly thrilled we are to see you complete your degrees this semester.
And Ben, if I may add, in addition to the virtual ceremonies on May 9th, we are planning also in the fall to find a way that we can invite graduates back to campus should they be able to attend for a more intimate physical celebration. Those plans are still being developed. That's a little bit off into the future. Right now, we're focused on making the May 9th event as meaningful as we can possibly make it.
Thank you both, and thank you for letting people know that there are still plans to have an in-person gathering and honoring of all the hard work. I know that's been a topic many people were concerned with, but obviously that's a lot of things are in motion there and things need to be decided, including what happens with across the country, because we don't know what's happening next week, let alone next month. So thank you both for that information. But Michael, I'm going to follow up with you, and this does present a question of the physical diploma, and how are the graduates going to get that? Will they be mailed to students? How does that be accomplished?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. It's an important question. Let me just add on a personal note. Like Provost Jones, I share folks' disappointment. I had two children planning to graduate, both from Penn State in May, one at Penn State York and one here at the LifeLink program. And I suspect my son graduating from Penn State York might have this same question. Currently, the diplomas are scheduled to be mailed physical mail on June 22nd. I say currently because, as we all know, things have been in flux a little bit, but that is the current plan. That is a little later than normal, and so I do want students who are graduating to know that once the spring 2020 grades have been posted and all the requirements complete, and that does include things like having your master's thesis or your doctoral dissertation accepted, once all those requirements are complete, students can request a letter of certification from the graduate school that will attest that all the requirements have been complete, and they can use that until they're able to get their diploma or access their transcripts.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that's also comforting for people who are going to either be looking for into the job market or, again, continuing that education here at Penn State. I'm sure we could make that happen if they stay here real easy, though.
Absolutely.
Dean Youngkin, another question for you. And what is happening with graduate assistantship, fellowship, and trainees, specifically in the summer and fall? How will they be impacted?
Sure, and I can certainly appreciate students having concerns about that. I do want to, again, emphasize, as Provost Jones pointed out, that students who are on current appointments for this semester for spring, those are continuing as they were committed to. And so for a student on an assistantship, their full terms of offer will be met. And just to remind people that stipends are dispersed for the spring semester, those last stipends will be dispersed in May. So they should expect that to happen. Summer will progress, and as always, summer appointments and summer funding are the purview of the students' graduate program, their departments, and in the case of students who are on assistantships, for example, or summer support that come from funded grants and contracts, the faculty PI. And so those are still within those individuals and departments' purviews. They are already moving forward. We have summer appointments beginning to be submitted. And so students, if they have not already, would be hearing from their programs and their departments. I will say, fall, as we have all been saying, this situation is driven by the coronavirus pandemic. And every day, the information about that changes. There are so many things that are impacting what can happen a week from now or a month from now that we really would be premature in trying to speculate in any way what might be happening for the fall. I also want to assure students who are on, the question included fellowships and traineeships, I believe. And so we are in contact. At this time, there is no information that we have received from federal agencies that fund traineeships, fellowships, for example, NSF graduate research fellowships. There is no information right now to indicate that those are being impacted for the immediate future. And our Office of Graduate Fellowships and Awards Administration are in contact with the program officers for those federal agencies and those programs. And for those awards that are centrally administered, for example, NSF fellowships come through the Graduate School's Office of Fellowships and Awards Administration. If we hear any change in that, we will be reaching out directly to students to let them know. And I would also encourage students to periodically check with the website for the Senior Vice President for Research. There is a great deal of valuable information on there regarding the flexibility that the federal agencies that fund many of the grants and contracts on which students are supported are providing flexibilities at this time. And so there's additional information there.
Thank you very much. And we'll make sure that we either have that information or link it on that site I mentioned earlier. Again, psu.edu/virusinfo. I realize we're throwing out a lot of websites and phone numbers for everyone, but we will do our very best to centralize all resources so you can find everything you're looking for. Sarah Adis, I have another question for you. And this comes from a graduate student who is worried that if they need to take a leave of absence due to COVID-19, will they still be able to keep their insurance?
Ben, this is a great question. I know the leave of absence policies and definitely health insurance can be incredibly confusing. So to start with, I want to say if anyone becomes sick with COVID-19 or is caring for someone with COVID-19, the first order of business is taking care of your health and your well-being. Contact your health care provider, follow their guidance, and take care of yourself. So in terms of what is a paid leave versus an unpaid leave, so I'm going to start with the second part of the question first. Paid leave is for students who are currently enrolled and are supported by a graduate assistantship, fellowship, or traineeship, and the support package is going to continue during the leave. Unpaid leaves really apply to students who are taking leave for an entire semester or more. And that's because support packages cannot be provided to students who aren't actually enrolled in courses. The only other case where an unpaid leave might apply is if the funding can't, for some reason, be continued due to the requirements of a support package during a leave of absence. So now I'll come back to the health insurance question, starting with emphasizing that every graduate student, whether you're unfunded or self-paying, is eligible for a short-term leave of absence of up to 3 weeks that will have absolutely no impact on your health insurance plan or your funding package. If you're in this situation and are able to, you should let your instructors, your research advisor, your graduate program head know what is going on. Students who need a little more time to recover or to care for others are eligible for what we call an extended leave of absence. During this time, given the current circumstances with the pandemic, graduate student financial support packages, which include the stipends and the health insurance subsidies, should continue through the end of the semester, even when graduate students aren't on leave, and that's barring any exceptional extenuating circumstances. And the other key piece of information is that the premiums that are paid for the insurance during the spring semester actually apply to the full coverage year. So you will be paid, your insurance will last through the August 12th. And given how confusing this can be, I'm happy to answer any questions from a student or a graduate program about a leave of absence or funding packages or health insurance during a leave. Thanks.
Thank you. And if I have any questions about my health insurance, can you help me too?
That one you probably have to talk to HR on.
Oh, all right. Thank you very much. Roger, we have another question for you. What guidance and resources can the university offer international students? And this is a very real concern for many of our students, but for these international students whose visas may be expiring.
Thank you, Ben. It's a very real concern, and I'd like to make an observation and then give some guidance. The observation is that a visa per se is just a travel document that ensures that you're allowed entry into the United States. Once you're in the United States, your legal status as a student or a scholar in the United States is actually related to other documents. That might be your I-94 marked DS, or it could be a valid I-20 or DS 2019, along with your valid passport. You don't need to leave the United States when your visa expires or to renew your visa. Even if you want to change your F and J status, you can probably do that from within the United States. So we strongly encourage you to talk to our international student and scholar advisors before you think about travel, especially at this point in time. What I'd suggest you do is go to iStart again and go to the Submit a Questionnaire form, and let's see if we can help you specifically with your concern. But again, the expiry of your visa is not the critical issue here. The critical issue is, are you maintaining that other documentation? So do let us help you with that.
Thank you very much for clarifying that. And I'd like to take this moment. We collected many questions, and some of the things that people have asked are highly specific to their own personal situation, as Roger indicated earlier. And if you have a very specific to your needs question, please reach out to the people that we're mentioning, and they can help you through those. We're trying to make this town hall as broad to help as many people as we can at once without delving into the hyper-specific questions. But we are trying to, again, provide information that will help everyone. Thank you. And Michael, we have another question for you, and this comes from a graduate student who is looking at that pass-fail option again, and they're wondering if they can take a deferred grade. You know, many people feel that there's just a little bit of pressure on them right now, but they're hitting their stride, and they think they can catch up and, you know, really excel and maybe earn that A that they'd love to have on the transcript Is that an option, the deferred grade?
Sure, thanks, Ben. We know that our graduate students are incredibly resilient and talented, and we've certainly provided guidance to provide some flexibility so they can meet the goals of their courses during the semester. But we also recognize this is an incredibly challenging time for everyone, including our students, whether it's family obligations or other pressures related to what's going on. And so, yeah, absolutely. The Graduate Council has a deferred grade policy, also known as DF. Let me quote the policy for it because I think it applies perfectly. When work is incomplete at the end of a semester because of extenuating circumstances. And I think we can all agree this applies here potentially. So a DF allows additional time after the semester formally ends so students can complete the work and receive the appropriate grade based on their level of accomplishment in the course requirements. And so I would say for students who have fallen behind because of the current situation, they should speak with their course instructor and request a DF so that they can have that additional time. We have asked the graduate, as I believe Dean Youngkin mentioned earlier, we've asked the graduate faculty to be flexible under the current circumstances, and this would certainly be a case where that would apply.
Thank you very much. Nick Jones, we have another question for you. People are wondering, looking ahead to the summer session, and as has been the case now, is it going to be synchronous teaching, or will we be moving to asynchronous teaching for that summer session?
Thanks, Ben. When we made the decision, the strategic decision in the middle of the semester to flip from residential instruction to remote instruction, we also made the decision that we would make that synchronous. This was a change that we imposed in the middle of the semester. There was a lot of complexity associated with doing that, and we felt that moving to synchronous instruction was really best for everybody. And that has proven, I think, in hindsight, to have been a good decision, although it's not been without some challenges because of students being in different time zones and so on and so forth. As we think about the summer, first, we will be getting some guidance out soon. We have a group that is working very hard on figuring out the best strategy for summer course delivery. And I would say that what we're thinking about is how to take everything that we have learned from the spring semester and our experience with synchronous delivery, couple that with everything that we know through many years of World Campus experience in asynchronous delivery, and really leverage both of those to the maximum benefit of our students and the university. So I anticipate what you will see emerge in the summer is a combination of synchronous and asynchronous delivery designed to really support our students in the best way possible. And we should have, I'm anticipating within days, there will be information and guidance coming out from the university about our directions for the summer.
Thank you, sir. And I know there was a lot of concern, as you mentioned, people are in different time zones. People might have difficulty connecting to that synchronous, but we've heard a lot of anecdotal evidence of people saying, that they've really enjoyed and appreciated this. Is there anything you can share with us along those lines?
Around synchronous delivery, you mean? Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, one of the things that actually we anticipated to some degree, but I think the degree to which it has been effective has really surprised us. And that is the benefit of being part of a learning community really has emerged very powerfully in the last 4 weeks. And we've seen just how much students appreciate being part of that real-time learning environment that develops in a synchronous delivery mode. And that I think the degree to which that has been significant has been a surprise to us. And so again, as we move into the summer, we want to try to capture as much of that community development aspect in this hybrid mode that really leverages both our expertise in asynchronous and synchronous to the maximum benefit of our students.
Thank you, sir. You really could anticipate that in a situation like this where we're all clearly, as we are today, social distancing, we're not in the same studio together, but that's a way for students to check in on each other and feel that sense of community as they're hearing from the teacher at the same moment together, even if they can't be there in person. So again, thank you for that information.
Yeah, that is absolutely correct, Ben. And I think sometimes we underestimate the power of the virtual environment. I was in a meeting earlier today, and I never thought that I would actually say this, but I felt emotion in that meeting about a topic that was being discussed, and it was really surprising to me just how that emotion came through in that particular community in a very powerful way. So I think we can sometimes underestimate what can happen in these virtual communities and virtual environments.
Thank you. And it's nice to see all of your faces. Regina, we have a question for you now. And people are interested to know what kind of relief is out there. And can graduate assistants receive help through the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security, or CARES Act?
That's understandably a question with respect to the CARES Act. And let me clarify first that the university does not determine who is eligible or not eligible to receive benefits under the CARES Act. Certainly the question is being raised, for example, about the extended unemployment benefits that are described in the CARES Act. And so first, as I said, the university is not the entity that determines eligibility for any given group of individuals. We have higher education and here in Pennsylvania because those funds are allocated to the states. And it's really up to the state, in this case, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, to determine who specifically will be eligible for those benefits. So we are waiting at this time for some clarification back on that very question. And we appreciate people's patience as we are being patient to hear.
We're all waiting to hear and learn more about a lot of these topics. And again, I'm going to plug the website again. Please bookmark these websites and revisit them often. And we'll be posting the information as soon as we have it. That website is psu.edu/virusinfo. Thank you. Thank you very much. And Stephanie, we have a question for you. And this is from a graduate student that is concerned moving forward if they're afraid that they may have contracted coronavirus. Can they get tested, and what might that cost this graduate student?
Thank you for your question. The university encourages all individuals who might have been exposed to or affected by coronavirus to take precautionary measures like quarantine for the recommended 14 days. Should symptoms persist, I would suggest going to seek medical attention as soon as possible. Information regarding costs with regards to the United Healthcare Student Resources was offered earlier in the week with regards to their policy changes to ensure that we offer the best healthcare possible, or top-notch healthcare. Information regarding that will be posted to the graduate school's website shortly after this broadcast regarding the cost saving associated with that.
Thank you for that. And Sarah, we have a question for you now. And this is a bit complex, but are graduate students allowed or expected to be working towards their dissertation if it's a non-time sensitive experiment in the lab, while still, of course, maintaining that social distancing?
Thanks, Ben. So I'm actually a microbiologist and have spent a large chunk of my life in a lab. And I can really appreciate how difficult it would be not to be able to go into the lab and do those experiments. However, given the Governor Wolf's order to stay at home, as well as the university's decision to reduce research on campus, if you are not performing essential research, you should not be coming to campus to do those experiments, no matter how much you might want to do so. As I said before, if you're not sure if your research is considered essential, talk to your research advisor. If you are staying at home, you can and should continue your research remotely. This is a time to do those data analyses you might have been putting off, to do some writing, a proposal, get a draft of a paper, maybe even the introduction of your dissertation started. You can keep up with the literature. Your advisors should also be continuing with group meetings and periodic check-ins to help you with these activities.
Writing and proofreading can very much be done while implementing social distancing. Thank you very much. Roger, we have another question for you now. And this is a question from international students, and they're wondering, will they be allowed to arrive this fall?
Yeah, great question. At a macro level, much will depend on the position of the US government. And currently, the US Department of State is monitoring COVID-19 with the intention that we will return embassy and consulate staff around the world to their posts as the conditions allow. Of course, that's going to be flexible in timing. And I think we can anticipate a situation where, depending on the COVID-19 transmission, some countries open up earlier than others. But that said, we do expect the embassies and consulates to reestablish visa appointments when it's safe to do so. We do also anticipate there will be some backlogs, so it'll be very important to watch those consulate and embassy websites as we move along. Of course, here at Penn State, we remain committed to a residential offering for all our students this fall semester. However, like our government, there's such an impact around COVID-19 right now that we really have to monitor this carefully, all the while recognizing and considering the global mobility of our international graduate students. And so we're currently evaluating multiple alternative and novel ways of continuing remote learning while also planning for a residential experience. That way, we believe we can give you the very best academic offering possible as the time allows. These discussions, of course, will continue, and they're dynamic in nature, but please do let us help you individually if you have specific timelines or specific issues related to the fall semester that you would like to discuss. And yes, go to the iStart and fill out that Submit a Question e-form.
Very good, sir. Michael, we have another question for you. And many doctoral students were planning to defend and submit dissertations in summer 2020 session, but they have also had their data collection and writing and research impacted by COVID-19. There was some accommodation that we've spoken about for people who were graduating in spring. Will there be a similar or any accommodations for those who are planning to graduate in summer 2020?
Yeah, Ben, I think it's fair to say the graduate school celebrates when students finish their degrees. That's why we are here, to help students do that. And so we certainly understand the concerns of those students who are really close and concerned. As you said, we did extend the deadline in the spring, and we will be looking at both the thesis and dissertation submission deadline for the summer as we get a little closer. And I can say we anticipate being able to provide a little bit of flexibility again, as we did in the spring. I do want to point out, however, that I'd like students to understand that those deadlines are set so that we can accomplish all the post-submission processing that has to be completed in time so that degrees can actually be conferred. And at the moment, with all of that processing taking place at the homes of staff members and not in the office, it's not quite as efficient as normal. So we'll certainly provide whatever flexibility we can, but we appreciate students' understanding as well.
Thank you. Dean Youngkin, we have a question for you. And what will happen to new students who were starting this summer and they were planning and hoping to be appointed to wage positions?
So Ben, that's a good question. Certainly we are looking at having new students participating in graduate education during the summer. And so what I would tell those new students is to contact their graduate program where they have been applying, and to ask them for information about the summer wage appointments. As I've mentioned previously, it's actually the purview of the individual programs and departments with respect to summer wages, and they would be able to give them information on that. And again, for continuing students, those appointments are beginning, and they will have information as well from their graduate programs and departments.
Thank you. Nick Jones, we have another question for you. And this is one of those looking forward questions. So perfectly all right if we don't have all the answers at this point, but what impact does the university anticipate this is going to have on admissions in the fall and, as a result, the courses that are offered?
Oh boy, here, let me look in my drawer and see if I can find my crystal ball to answer that one. Well, I think as probably those who've been watching university announcements can attest. About a week ago, we talked about grading, new grading policy for graduate students during this unusual semester. We just announced earlier this week what we're doing for commencement, which of course is at the end of the grading period. And I said earlier in the conversation that we'll be issuing guidance very soon on what we're doing for the summer. So you can imagine that the fall is a little bit further off, but we do have to be thinking about it because decisions that we are making now are obviously have an impact on where we will land in the fall. It's a little bit hard to talk right at this moment, at the beginning of April, about what we're anticipating for graduate students in terms of enrollments. I would just offer that all of the data we're looking at suggests that for both graduate students and indeed for undergraduate students, that interest in Penn State remains high, applications remain high, paid accepts at the undergraduate level, which we are tracking, remain significant. So at this point, the interest in Penn State is out there and remains, both at the undergraduate and the graduate level. One of the important things that we are focused on doing is making sure that those students who have accepted the invitation to attend Penn State are stuck to us, and that we don't lose them over the summer. We do not want our students, undergraduate or graduate, to be thinking that their educational goals and vision needs to be negatively impacted by a virus. This is a very important message that we want to get out there. Once you have committed to Penn State will stand by you, and so we're very optimistic that as we start to emerge from this acute period of the challenge, that we will see admissions remain robust, even though the entry of students, both graduate and undergraduate, to the university may be a little bit different from what one had originally anticipated, but robust nonetheless. So that is my optimistic read on the situation.
Thank you. And as always, stay tuned to the websites there, and that will be the source of the latest information. Thank you. Michael, one more question for you. And how should students plan on making up for lost clinical hours? Obviously, things are a little different right now, and people thinking about those ones they need to graduate.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. This is actually a really important question. And like many things in a graduate school, I have to say it depends. I'll give you two really broad answers to this. In some cases, those clinical hour requirements are set by external accrediting bodies or licensing bodies. And so those are not under the control of the university. I can say that I know our program leaders in those programs have been in touch with those agencies to determine what kind of flexibility they might provide. And so students in such programs should talk to their program heads. For other cases, those requirements are established by the particular graduate program as part of that program to ensure that the students get all the knowledge, skills, and attributes necessary for success in their field. And so in cases where it's a program requirement, as I mentioned before, we've asked programs to be flexible and to do that in the context of not delaying student graduation, but ensuring that students still do meet their program objectives so they can be successful when they leave the university and take on their careers.
Thank you. We are running short on time, but I do have to ask this final question for Dean Youngkin because it was frankly very encouraging when it came in. And this person asked if there was a way for graduate students from certain fields like biology to contribute to solving this pandemic that we're all facing right now.
Ben, first, I want to applaud our graduate students, like the student who submitted this question, who have reached out in really generous and selfless ways with an interest in bringing to bear their disciplinary expertise and their graduate training to help solve this problem. And what I would say is, as with any very complex and impactful problem, this will require a multitude of approaches to solve it. That includes individuals who have expertise in biomedical and life science fields like virology and immunology. It includes social and behavioral sciences. We're all aware of how important behaviors by individuals like social distancing and self-quarantining are necessary. It includes individuals who have expertise in computational fields, epidemiology. And so we have tremendous assets here at Penn State in the form of our research institutes, and in particular, those under the Senior Vice President for Research. There is a special initiative right now with funding for seed grants for projects to address the coronavirus and solutions through the Huck Institutes for the Life Sciences in collaboration with the Materials Research Institute, the Institute for Energy and the Environment, the Institute for Computational and Data Sciences, and the Social Science Research Institute. And I would encourage those graduate students, like the student who submitted this question, to reach out to those institute directors and to see what opportunities they are to bring their support and expertise to bear. And we will provide the information on those individuals and their contact information with the questions and the answers that are posted. And I want to thank that student and all the others that have that tremendous intent in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Truly, Penn Staters impacting the world. Provost Jones, do you have any final thoughts for the community today? Provost, if you could unmute your microphone. Those are brilliant thoughts, and I want to hear them.
Yes, they were, and I will try to remember them. Yes, thank you, Ben. So at least I began and ended the same way, forgetting to unmute. I do want to address something that I'm sure some of you may have seen and that we're quite sensitive to, and that is that there's been a bit of rhetoric nationally about how graduate students have felt that they have been considered or treated by their home institutions during this period of extraordinary challenge and stress. And that is something that I read with considerable interest, and I'm actually feel pretty good about the fact that here at Penn State, that has absolutely not been the case from day one. When the coronavirus first emerged as something that we as an institution had to deal with in a strategic and a tactical manner, I stepped in for President Barron and put together a series of task groups to fashion the university's response. And one of the things that was noteworthy to me is that in almost every one of those task groups, the topic of supporting our research enterprise and supporting our graduate students and the educational aspirations of those students was top of mind in all of the conversations. So it was really gratifying to see that. And of course, befitting of our status as a research-intensive university. So I really appreciate the fact that we had the opportunity to do this town hall. I hope that the answers to all your questions were helpful. And I want to assure each and every one of you that from day one, our graduate students have been a major focus for the university, and you all will remain a focus as we move forward and eventually put this challenge behind us. So thank you all for listening, and thanks for being part of this conversation.
I do want to thank Nick Jones, Regina Vassilatos-Yankan, Sarah Adis, Michael Veterame, Stephanie Danette Preston, and Roger Brindley, all for answering questions today. Truly, thank you so much. I also want to thank our community for coming together and submitting these questions and really coming together as a community during this unprecedented challenge facing us all. If we all continue to do our part in limiting our social interaction, doing things via Zoom like we are today, Be vigilant with your personal hygiene and quarantine yourself if you feel sick. We can tackle this challenge together. One more time, please bookmark and continue to visit psu.edu/virusinfo for the latest updates and information on the university's response. The link will be here on liveevents.psu.edu. Thank you all and have a good evening.